I'm not interested.
Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about the Belko experiment? Stick around and find out. Ba, ba, ba-na-na-na-na, ba, ba, ba-na-na-na-na, ba, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. All right. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of the Belko experiment. Let's see here. Let's look at the premise. The synopsis, according to IMDb, is in a twisted social experiment, 80 Americans are locked in their high-rise corporate office in Bogota, Colombia, and ordered by an unknown voice coming from the company's intercom system to participate in a deadly game of kill or be killed. This is, it's like a mashup of The Office, Saw, and The Purge all in one movie. So if that sounds like a good time to you, just skip this review and go watch the movie. It's only about 90 minutes, and it has brief introductions to some key characters and just kind of presents the tone of the office atmosphere, like who kind of is friendly with who and who kind of doesn't like everybody, and you know, who are the nice people, who are the weirdos and stuff like that, you know. And it does a good job of like handling that economically, so that really right away it can get into the premise. You're not spending like the first 20 to 30 minutes really getting to know these people. I would have liked a little bit more of getting to know some of these characters and understanding their backstories, what makes them tick, what motivates them, so that I could feel more tension when their life is on the line later on. But I still thought that they used the time well before the premise kind of kicked into gear. And then at that point, it's just about watching desperation erode morals among a powerful few, while the rest are just kind of trying to survive, trying to help each other. Some of whom, in just rare instances, in desperation, kind of ultimately become killers themselves. It's a tense movie with, like, I would say frequent spurts of dark humor to go along with all the murder and mayhem. There's probably some office rage fantasies that cubicle workers will appreciate most. I'm not sure if that's a healthy thing or not, but you know, just kind of the way that they'll use office supplies to do each other in is it's not like, and it's not done like in a really comical way. I mean, I didn't find it really even darkly funny. I suppose some people would find it dark, but maybe if I worked in like an office with a cubicle and saw those kinds of office supplies every day, it would mean a little bit more to me, or be funnier or something like that. But anyway, like I said, I wish that they would have gotten into backstories a little bit more, but it's not that big of a deal. Mostly we have black and white hats during this movie, and you kind of figure out pretty early on who's going to go black hat and who's going to stay white hat, with only rare instances of people who I would say are truly reluctant killers. You know, I mean, everybody's kind of a reluctant killer, except for like maybe 3 of them, you know, who kind of lose it pretty quick. But you don't really, at least I didn't really like feel the angst of their decision to kill somebody, except in rare cases where somebody who'd been a white hat for a while, and you could argue is still a gray hat, or still a white hat, you know. That's kind of the interesting thing about a movie like this, is it explores these kinds of moral concepts of moral gray areas, but in these really extreme terms, you know. Normally what we would do is just kind of like very all too easily apply moral judgments to gray areas. Say, yeah, that's fine. Oh, that's fine. Da, 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 and we just kind of whatever, you know. We just kind of shrug and say that's fine, you know. But this really brings out the kind of moral gray areas by having the moral actions, the moral choices be so extreme, you know, life and death and that kind of thing. So I do appreciate a movie of this kind. The cast I thought was really solid. You know, there's not a whole lot more they had to do than just kind of like be scared or be crazy, you know, and is these kind of like somewhat extreme emotions, but I mean, they all, I thought, did a fine job. And there was also some nice comedic performances as well. Let's see here. Oddly, the comedic performances, like the comedic moments in the movie, would make me cringe because there were just enough of them that, like, right after the punchline, boom, somebody dies, you know. So it was kind of odd that I was like smiling and cringing at the same time through a number of parts in this movie. As far as the stunts and visuals go, there's lots of gore and blood. There's nothing groundbreaking really, except for there's one scene where a dude, I'm not going to say more than a dude, he gets hit in the head with a blunt instrument, and they show his head caved in, and he's still awake briefly. And it's I mean, yeah, I was just mesmerized by it. It was so good that it kind of took me out of the moment of the movie, you know, because I've never seen someone's head kind of get caved in like that before, and it looked so real to me. I was like, that is really disturbing, you know. So wow, I thought that was really impressive. That feels really weird to say, wow, that caved-in head was really impressive. Anyway, as far as like relevance, you know, when I watch a movie like this or play a video game, I always try to ask myself, is there anything of worthwhile moral or philosophical significance that might stimulate worthwhile thought or conversation as a result of taking part in the experience? And you know, in movies like this, and I think certainly in the case of this movie, you could bring up, if you wanted to, the question of the value of human life. This reminded me a little bit of the Walking Dead season premiere, which I did a video on that you can check out on this channel, and where. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail too much, but The Walking Dead, I think, really kind of maybe overemphasizes a bit the ultimate virtue of survival. Like, survival is a virtue, you know, even more than, you know, maybe self-sacrifice in some instances. I don't know. It's hard to say. I do think that show leans a little bit on holding up survival as too high of a virtue. And this movie and movies like it, you know, bringing that question of the value of human life. How important is it to survive? How high a priority should that be? And then also, does human life lose its value as it is, say, closer to death? I mean, like, one of the things that was that some people were resolving to try and do in this movie was, okay, let's take the people that are older and let's kill them, because the premise of the movie, I can't remember if it said, yeah, this much is revealed in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. But basically a voice comes over the intercom and says, okay, we're going to give you blank amount of time to kill 30 people among you, however you see fit. If you don't do that, 60 people will be killed by us, by the means that we have available to us. And after, you know, and then basically they demonstrate how they can pull that off easily without, and people realize, wow, we have no ability to stop them from killing us. It is clear to all the characters they can't stop the powers that be in control of the situation from taking their lives if they want to follow through on that threat. So then the question, you know, becomes, you know, should we kill people in order to keep other people alive? You know, and the position that I would take, and I kind of expressed this in my video about The Walking Dead, is that really, as long as there is a choice of someone involved, and maybe even if there isn't a choice of someone involved, but I think particularly in this case, let's just look at this situation. If there's a choice of someone else involved, you know, if someone says, I'm going to kill 5 people unless you kill 1 person, then I think, I'm not saying I would have the fortitude to make this choice, but I believe that the moral choice in that situation is to say, I'm not going to kill anybody. I will not be responsible for anyone's death, but you will be responsible if you choose to follow through on the threat you've just given to me and kill these 5 people, you know. Now, if you have a purely naturalistic or atheistic worldview, then you might override that by saying, this is the only life we have, life is the most important thing, we've got to hold on with all that we have to life, 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 and nothing else compares to that value, you know. But from a theistic viewpoint, or specifically a Christian viewpoint, this is just a dot. This life is just a dot on the line of eternity. A very significant dot in terms of like the choices that we make, but it is just a dot on the line of eternity. And so losing our life here it has very, very little significance when compared to the weight of eternity that comes after this life. So anyway, yeah, I just thought that was interesting to kind of see those these different kind of views of life play out, and I think it was noteworthy that, let's see, what did I say in my notes here? Oh yeah, this is something that you only tend to see in horror movies. I think the last time I saw this in a movie was, I can't remember the name of it. I reviewed it a long time ago, but anyway, the villains here have this cold survivalist mentality. They're the bad guys, the script and the movie is telling us. The bad people are the ones that are obsessed with survival and are just willing to do a numbers game, to allow the most people to survive, or allow themselves to survive, or whatever. And it's a survivalist view that kind of smells like cold Darwinism just applied to morality, and I think if you just apply Darwinistic evolution to morality, I think that is what you end up with. You have to invade the concept of evolution with some kind of other objective moral framework in order to avoid that kind of thing being something that we just accept, and we can't really say, well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with just kind of doing whatever it takes to survive. I think some other kind of objective source for morality has to be injected into that scenario in order to hold to something other than a cold survivalist view. The villains, there are also villains in this movie that are scientists, which is interesting. There are certain types of movies where kind of like the organized church will be evil. That's usually in like fantasy types of novels and role-playing games and stuff like that, in video games. If it's at a fantasy setting, then like the religious people are often evil. And in a horror setting like this with a little splash of sci-fi, it's the science. The scientists are frequently the villains. But I would say that I want to be clear. Science is not evil. I think this whole pitting of science and faith, or science and religion, is just an artificial, unnecessary kind of what's the word I'm looking for? War or battle or contest between the two. But I would say that any pursuit, whether it's scientific or artistic, etc., that's unbound by morality, that's grounded in the absolute nature of God's character, it becomes evil. And I think an example of a game that kind of explores that a bit, not so much the idea of morality being grounded in God's nature, but just like science and art unbound by morality becomes evil, is a BioShock. I think that's a great example of that idea being explored. So anyway, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, yeah, this is your kind of thing. It's a cool, intense flick. It's one that you're probably going to enjoy. You liked The Cube, you liked The Thing, and other horror movies that kind of play on people's paranoia and humans kind of being broken by, mentally broken by these just insane circumstances. It's light on sci-fi elements, but just the situation is so extreme that it kind of has enough of a sci-fi feel to it, if that's what you're looking for. It's funny and suspenseful, but probably not one that you need to see more than once. Although definitely check it out and keep your ears or eyes or whatever, your radar blooping for a sequel, because it seems like, even though there's there's kind of like horror movie resolution where it's not completely resolved, but you could just end it here, it does seem like it's wide open and ready for a sequel. So anyway, it's rated R for strong bloody violence throughout, language including sexual references, and some drug use. All right, those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. If you want to like, share, and subscribe, that does help the channel. If you don't, then don't do that. Let's see here. What else? Oh, yeah, visit spiritblade.com and check out our audio dramas and our weekly podcast there. And then I hope you'll join us at christiangeekcentral.com. Oh, crap, the light's going to be too bright. I saw this before. I got to do something to fix this problem. But anyway, christiangeekcentral.com. Join us there soon as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
I'm not interested.